Hello, everybody. I am. I'm not ready. I'm gonna take you know how there's usually like an awkward start at the beginning. Today's gonna be like extra awkward. It's gonna be fine though. It's gonna be great. Um, I'll be honest. Streaming at this time of day is really hard for me, but we try to make it work. Try to make it work. And today it's not working as good as usual, but it's okay. Okay. Just give me. I was like debating on whether I should just not start the stream and like wait, finish and then start in like a few minutes. But I figured, we could just like sit here and chat while I finish because like the first 5 minutes are, always a little awkward anyway. So why not? Let's just go. Uh, how's everybody doing? The See, the problem that I have right now is that there was a evidence of Ukrainian advances in multiple places that I just saw like 5 minutes ago. So I'm updating. Yeah, I'm updating. So, oh boy, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong thing. Okay. We're just doing it all together right now. Uh, the good news is that the map changes, and I'll describe it to you in a moment as soon as I'm ready. It's actually we're actually not that far away right now. Like maybe I forgot what I deleted. Okay, yeah. So we're talking maybe less than a minute to go, and then I'll be good. Yeah, the new. Oh, there was a. I kind of screwed up YouTube because I went to start the stream and I accidentally started a stream instead of joining this scheduled stream. So that's a rookie error, you know. I don't know what that's gonna like do. Oh boy. Things are happening. Things are not supposed to be okay. Undo, please. So that was a rookie mistake. And yeah, attackums are news. I don't really talk about attackums because that's not really like what I do. But yeah, that is certainly a thing. So uh, who's there? I hear somebody, but I can't see who you
Oh,
are. Oh, well, there's a bunch of people here. There's Gick, and there's Language Learner, and there's Erland. How y'all doing?
doing pretty good now. Sounds like Sevastopol is having a very bad, no good day, or at least one specific building there,
Yeah, yeah, but
and more explosions happening now, actually.
really, that's funny.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get to there's reports of blasts happening now. Some people are saying it's UXO being detonated. I'm asking some EOD guys because I can't understand why you would walk into an area and start blowing things in place at night when we haven't really seen the Russians do it that way. I figure you just cordon it off and then deal with it in the morning. So it's but yeah, Sevastopol's it's an interesting story. There's like a timeline that's already sort of getting established on how this happened.
Yeah. So okay, so I fixed all the things that went wrong, and I'm gonna click reload, and hopefully it'll just work now. Um, it didn't work, guys.
Are
Uh,
y'all about to start broadcasting?
we're already broadcasting. It just
Oh,
kind of
wonderful.
it just kind of didn't start so good. Okay, so this window's working. That window didn't work. I think that window's just broken on my computer though. I think I need to like restart my computer. But anyways, so okay, so I'm all set up now. So does everybody
Andrew,
wanna? Yeah.
could you start a stream for us in Discord?
Oh yeah, that. I'm kind of putting out a fire right now. Okay, so yeah, I'll start a stream for you in Discord. Uh, and then you'll be good. Okay, go. Okay, so the reason why I had to do some updates is that there's a shelling right here, north of Avdiivka, and this area was I don't even know if it was a Russian position. It was more just a really dense minefield. I've talked about this before, but now that they're shelling here, it's actually fascinating that they're shelling here. It's like there's not supposed to be shelling here. This is actually really bad for Russia. This was kind of they assaulted this position, I believe, in the evening of a day. This was a while ago. So they assaulted it in the evening. Overnight, they set up this really dense minefield and withdrew, and it's been like that ever since. And now Russia is shelling it. So it's interesting. This is a very actually important development, because this was like kind of Russia's first line of defense up here, and behind it is this really important town of Novobakhmutivka. So there's a lot of like interesting things going on north of Avdiivka. So that is the update to the map that I was just doing just now. That in addition to near Klashivka, I pushed all of the. I should have loaded this. I pushed the Russians across the railroad, and they're shelling right here, which we knew that Russia's been shelling there for a while. So anyways, so that's kind of the brief rundown of the emergency update. So do y'all want to like introduce yourselves? Because they always yell at me when we don't introduce people. So there's Gick. Hi, Gick.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to describe what you do for the map? Because I don't think people know that you're an important part of the map.
Well, basically, I'm just a nerd scraping through Telegram. I'm collecting videos. I mean, what happens on the map, other than moving the front lines, is basically just collecting footage and trying to get the positions of that footage and basically, arrive at some sort of logic of what actually happened, because of what we have just seen. And yeah, I mean, I'm just scraping Telegram. I'm collecting those videos and then try to find those positions. And luckily, I'm not the only one. I mean, there are a lot of geolocators out there, which I'm quite glad to work with them. And yeah, that's what I do, I guess.
Yeah, and you've become a very significant part of the map updating process and the workflow. Yeah, I don't think many people know that. I guess we also never really talked about it. So, anyways, so there's also Erland. How are you doing, Erland?
I'm doing great. Today was a big day.
Yeah, yeah, it sure was.
I've been glued to Twitter and Telegram for hours now.
That sounds healthy.
No, it's probably really unhealthy.
Well, it's also what I do like every day, so I feel that. Language learner, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. A little sick, under the weather, but otherwise can't complain. Reading about all this stuff from Crimea is brightening my day up dramatically.
Yep.
So yeah, I
And
don't know.
John, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic today.
Yeah, you're having a great day. Do you want
This is the day of my life. I have the Attack'ems poster is ordered. I'm going to go pick it up later today. I am on cloud 9.
Okay. Do you want to talk about Attack'ems for a moment?
Right. So the reporting has overwhelmingly indicated today that Ukraine is likely going to receive a, quote, limited number of Attack'ems tactical ballistic missile systems from the United States. with the possibility of additional future deliveries, somewhere down the line. The reporting seems to indicate that Ukraine will probably be receiving M39A1s, which have a 300-kilometer range, GPS, and inertial guidance, and dispense a payload of approximately 300 general-purpose submunitions. So this is really the effect this will have on the battlefield and on operations is really strongly dependent on how many they receive. But this is a markedly different capability than what Storm Shadow and Scalp EG have previously offered. This gives Ukraine. ATACMS will give Ukraine the ability to do two things: to prosecute time-sensitive targets. Time-sensitive target is either a target that decays quickly because it's highly mobile, or a target that is such an enormous threat to your own operations that it must be prosecuted immediately. And it also will enable them to prosecute area targets, airfields, heliports, dispersed SAM batteries. All of those things will now be on the table in a way that they just never were beforehand. And again, the actual magnitude of effects on the battlefield that Ukraine can achieve is, again, strongly dependent on how many they get. But if they get, say, 100 over a month or so, that would be rather significant. Again, there's 4 major airfields in Crimea with probably 100 fixed-wing VKS fixed-wing assets between them at any given time. The Ukrainians could absolutely trash all 4 of those airfields with a fairly limited number of ATACMS in a way that just really wasn't feasible with Storm Shadow, Scalp EG, or even Taurus, hypothetically. So this is really a truly new capability that they will have going forward now.
Yeah, it all depends on numbers, because if you get like 2, it's not as impressive. I don't know what limited number means. Is limited number 50? Like is a limited number 100? I don't know what a limited number is. But I guess we'll find out eventually. So these are 300-kilometer range, right? So it can hit basically anything.
Yes, more or less.
Any target, I feel like. So
300-kilometer range-ish. The U.S. is very, very vague when it comes to missile ranges, especially with an aeroballistic missile that can do like range extension maneuvers. There's a fair bit of play with that. So I'm guessing in reality they may be able to do strikes at greater than 300 kilometers if they wanted to under certain circumstances. But yeah, they should be able to range anything in occupied Ukraine if they wish.
Yeah, I mean 300 is enough just by itself. I mean the maneuvers may make the missile more valuable, but yeah, 300 is they can hit anything. They could hit the Kerch Bridge. They could. I mean, they wouldn't, but they could. Yeah. So, anyways, so there was another missile news today, and it involved the Storm Shadow, striking headquarters. So I don't know. Do you wants to talk about it? The basic news is that or the rumors are that the commander died, right? The admiral.
Yes. So there's a couple of things here. The bottom line up front is that the rumors are the Russian Black Sea Fleet just lost all of its commanders. That's the takeaway. You can tab away now. In longer form, the Russian Black Sea Fleet admiral, which would be the Russian Navy ranks don't exactly line up perfectly with the U.S. Navy ranks, but he would be the highest ranking serving officer in the Russian Navy. That doesn't mean he's the only one, like he's in charge of the whole Navy, but he's in charge of the Black Sea Fleet, which is all the Navy we need to worry about these days, was there for a meeting. And him and his command staff were hit and killed. Now, I think it's fairly public to see where the missiles landed. So I don't know, Andrew, I'd thrown a picture in the chat before about where we saw the impacts, the one on the side of the building and the one on the main hall. The allegation, this is what we know for a fact, that a missile, at least one missile, slammed into a side part of the building, And then that's where we see the video, smoke rising up from that portion. And then another rocket comes in and slams into sort of the main entrance, if you will, right there. So if you're looking on your screen, the one on the bottom was hit first. The one on the left was hit second. Now, there's a number of reasons. Maybe they just went where they went, or if people were fleeing from the first area, they running out the second, they'd also get blown up. It's called a double tap strike. It's been used by various governments and insurgent groups around the world for quite some time. Now, there's something interesting, though, about this, in that back last year, I believe it was, there was drone attacks, and one of them hit the Black Sea Fleet. It might have been earlier this year. Frankly, it all blends together. That, which I believe was the other side of that U-shaped building, was damaged and had scaffolding up around it for some time. Might have been taken down, might have been fixed, but here's the hypothesis, that there was only really one place or one hall that commanders would be meeting in. But how do they know if there's commanders there on any given Friday? Well, Atesh, which is a Ukrainian resistance group out of Crimea, published some statements saying that, yes, we were responsible for basically supplying the intelligence to get this strike. We'd like to thank, our, brave, resistance, yada, yada. And also, we'd like to thank the payroll department of the Russian Navy for not paying their guys on time. So 2 of them came and talked to us. So, is it a little bit of a concocted story? Perhaps, but it falls within the bounds of reasonability here, where we can say Ukraine knows that they can hit things at will in Sevastopol currently. They've demonstrated over the last week. They have some senior officers gathering to talk about this, as the Russians love to do. People know, oh, wow, watch out on Friday. There's going to be a bunch of commanders here. Somebody turns around and tells that to somebody else, and there's only one side of the building they can be in. So Ukraine says, okay, let's ball, and blows up that side of the building, and then however many seconds later blows up the main entrance that people could be running out of. That's a hypothesis, but it seems to be a possibility more reasonable than not. And if it is true, then stay tuned. Losing all of your commanders for your naval forces that have decades of experience, centuries of experience between all of them, is usually considered a bad time. It's not good. So keep an eye out. Does this mean the Black Sea Fleet is just going to leave tomorrow? Probably not. Does it mean that they're going to be in disarray? Very likely. Does it mean that conditions could be set where they choose to depart to Novorossiysk? Also a possibility. Something that's a little more interesting and hasn't actually really been discussed. I'm not sure if it was today's strike or a strike the other day, but up the hill from here, there's a communications post that was actually Ukrainian military's before Russia took over the port in 2014. Now, that is their main radio communications post for the Black Sea Fleet. Ultra high frequencies, very high frequency radio, the stuff that ships use to communicate with each other. The Russians just took it over and have been using it to their own ends. That apparently was also hit at some point in the last couple of days. I'm not entirely clear if it was hit today or before. I don't know yet. But if that's the case, the next best station for Russia to do these things is all the way in Novorossiysk, which is quite a distance away and really hasn't been used for that ship-to-ship communication in the large fleet scale sort of thing, beyond just, oh, well, we know where you are. Okay, tell us your location. Okay, tell us that. There's a lot that goes into moving ships around. It's not like a game of Risk. You have to do a lot of communication, logistics, yada, yada. So we could be seeing a persistent and evolving decapitation of the Russian Black Sea Fleet's capabilities, both physically by destroying them in port, from a personnel standpoint by killing them in their lunch meetings, and from a communication standpoint by destroying their comms. Hopefully, we'll see.
If I could add one thing onto that, just regarding, I guess, the quote-unquote double tap aspect of it. One thing to keep in mind is that from a weaponeering standpoint, especially for high-value targets, it's very, very common practice to assign multiple munitions per aim point. Even if it's even if an intercept is a low probability event, guidance failure, crash, low probability events, especially if you're working with a small number of munitions, law of large numbers. If you have one munition assigned to an aim point, you have a low probability, event that happens like an intercept or a crash that will really your raid will not achieve the same effect. They aim pointed, I believe they allocated like 2 storm shadows per aim point for the strike on the dry dock. So typically, again, especially with high value targets, you're always going to be talking at least 2 munitions per aim point to ensure that you achieve the desired effect.
John, can I ask a question? Because looking at the footage of the Storm Shadow actually arriving in the building, it does appear to me that the Storm Shadow does not approach the building from the northwest, but instead I would rather say it's some southish direction. How is the navigation working on a Scalpig and the Storm Shadow?
So it's going to be, depending on what phase of flight, it's going to be doing GPS and INS throughout the entirety of flight. And then throughout mid-course, it's going to be doing what the UK calls TERPROM, which is it's TERCOM with some minor differences, that has a radar altimeter on it and then has a preloaded, essentially, terrain elevation map. And then it compares what it's reading in terms of terrain elevation below it to that map to estimate its position. So that allows it to navigate most of flight without GPS if it's in a GPS denied environment. And then if it's not in a GPS denied environment, that just enhances your precision that much more. And then when you finally get to terminal phase where it's diving on the target, at that point it's going to have DESMAC, digital scene mapping area correlation guidance. And so it has an imaging infrared seeker in the nose, and there's going to be a preloaded terrain map, like a terrain feature map in infrared, and it's basically going to be comparing the output from that infrared seeker to that map to estimate its current position with a high degree of precision. Again, that enables it to work if GPS is being spoofed or jammed, and then so you can get that extra bit of precision and reliability in against electronic warfare. And so while it's diving, it's going to be again scanning the area, comparing it to that terrain map. And then, ideally it should land, probably within a meter or so of its target, if not, closer.
But can you assign waypoints and make it fly a curve?
Yes.
Okay. So if I say I see it arriving from some southern direction, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean, they could have flown it in, south of Sevastopol, then had it, basically do a loop over the Black Sea, then turn north and then approach from the south. I mean, that's entirely something that you can do. The Russians do it all the time with the Calibers and the KH-101s, like doing massive U's and, all sorts of very, very nonlinear maneuvers and flight routes.
Yeah. I guess that leaves us with the question, did the second one explode?
It sounded like it exploded on video.
Yeah, there are people claiming it didn't because the explosion looked small to them. That they thought that the warhead itself didn't detonate, and maybe something else detonated. That is what people are saying. I'm not saying I agree with them. it's just that's
Without knowing where the missile actually hit within the building and how the building looks like, I think if you're not a high quality expert on the specific missile, it would be very difficult to judge. But it looks like it explodes to me. So there's an awful lot of dust and smoke coming out of the building the second after it hits the building.
And I'm pretty sure that the building has some sort of bunker. So it could also be if they actually timed the second missile and it wasn't the same aim point, that it could have actually targeted a different area where they expected, individuals would go to.
Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely something you could do.
I think just discarding an explosion out of that video is, it's wrong. Like you can't discard it from that video in my opinion. By the way, I want to note that night to yesterday as well, there was a massive attack on another facility of the Black Sea Fleet. And I think it's just very funny if they actually had a meeting today in the building that was hit, 2 days or less than 48 hours after the last massive attack with Storm Shadow.
Oh yeah,
in
Andrew,
Crimea.
I think you have the satellite image on your map.
Yeah. From yesterday, yeah. So it was right there. It's actually
Yeah.
very close. uh,
To me, it's almost like, oh shit, they hit our command building. We need to have a meeting. You know, it just sounds so stupid.
yep. So
What kind of building was that? A communications building or of sorts?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming one of you do.
That one on the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's among other things. Did a lot of communication. I actually have it written down here, so I was talking with somebody about it. Smarter than I am, but basically, yeah, it was a communications building. So it was a comms relay station, and so it was doing all the long range communiques, like launch a command, which is a pretty big deal, and that was all done via high frequency radio waves. Now it's going to get assigned to Novorossiysk, but that's been inoperative for a while, and there's only for ship updates. So now they have to figure out how they can run stuff. I'm sure they'll find a way. It's not like it's a resolvable problem, but it's intriguing nonetheless. Like, it's just sort of, I don't know what your next target would be after you decapitate all the leadership, unless you want to start sinking things in port. But
I don't think they can. They just send everything back to Russia.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, especially if I don't know nearly enough about the topography or the radio communication effectiveness of stuff there, and there will always be a way to talk to people, right? Like, this isn't no ships can talk to each other. I'm not saying that, but it is meaning that they're gonna have to change things. It's gonna make things harder, and I would be very interested in counting down from today until the next time the Black Sea Fleet fires missiles. For instance, last night there was a large assortment of Russian missiles, and to my knowledge, those were all air launched as opposed to sea launched. So that could also lend credence to this thought that they're having some difficulties with launching. That
And, yesterday they supposedly launched Onyx, not Caliber.
Yeah. I saw some of the maps, and I wasn't aware that they had launched Onyx missiles. Honestly, I thought it was mostly air launch stuff.
It was completely separate. The Onyx was like in the afternoon.
Okay.
One thing I would also add to that is that in general, we should expect to see more air launched, e.g., more KH-101s than Calibers, simply because they produce many more KH-1s than they do Calibers, and the KH-1's also just a more performant missile.
Did we ever hear what happened to that Onyx, or is it just a mystery?
I think there were explosions reported in Odessa. I assume that it probably hit something. May not have been its target, but they rarely intercept Onyx. So
yeah, the air alert was for this town. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it was this one right here. It was not literally for Odessa. It was just for Odessa. The warning was for Odessa Oblast. So this was the area that was explicitly warned by the governor. He told everybody in this city or town or whatever it is to get into the shelter. I don't know anything more than that. I don't know if anything was hit or that's all I can say. Just that he gave out the warning. So yeah. So we have some missile related questions. Regarding the ATACMS, do you think it's better that Ukraine is getting the cluster munitions, or would you also want the unitary warhead?
Personally, I think the cluster munitions are much more significant than the unitary warhead, just simply given the nature of many of the time-sensitive targets that they're going to want to prosecute with ATACMS are also typically area targets. Again, SAM batteries where all the components may not be, literally parked right next to each other, or you may not have its position exactly. You can sort of lean on the cluster munitions to compensate for that. There's definitely a need, I think, for unitary ATACMS for M48s, M57s, or M57E1s. My thought immediately goes to, for example, command posts that are time sensitive. Obviously, they've been using Storm Shadow or Scout BG for that quite significantly. But there's often times where it may not be possible if that command post is about to be relocated, where executing a raid with Storm Shadow may not be feasible. In those cases, having unitary ATACMS would definitely be helpful. But in general, I think the M39A1s with the submunition warheads are much more significant in terms of expanding the target set that they can effectively hold at risk.
Yeah. Trying to think of if there's any more questions for John. John, do you have any questions for yourself?
There you go. Here's a question on the ATACMS actually with the cluster. Maybe to sort of dive into what you were discussing about prosecuting, time-sensitive targets. We know of a couple air bases in Ukraine where Russia deploys the helicopters from.
Yes.
Operating under the assumption that these would all be within range of ATACMS without having to unnecessarily expose it. What would a hypothetical, ATACMS one or dual strike attack on a helicopter landing site look like? How much knowledge would the Russians have of it? What would be their time to react to get things out of there? Would that be a possibility? Would it just be that's all she wrote? Could you walk us through that?
Right. So Colby actually gave a pretty good example of this in his thread that he wrote. He looked at the Berdyansk heliport specifically. The M39A1 disperses a little over 300 APAM submunitions over approximately 130 meter radius area. Based upon how the Russians have been parking those Ka-52s at the Berdyansk heliport, just using that as a reference, a single ATACMS could probably get 5 or 6 of those helicopters in one go. In reality, the Ukrainians are probably going to allocate at least 2 ATACMS per raid. Again, just in case one gets shot down or suffers some sort of in-flight failure, to ensure they still get good effects on target if a low probability event happens. So potentially we're talking, 2 ATACMS could, again, depending on how exactly the Russians have decided to park their rotary wing assets, you could easily get probably, on the low end, 5, 6 helicopters, or on the high end, 10, 12 helicopters with, 1 to 2 ATACMS.
Can you describe what do you expect in terms of really intercepting those ATACMS?
It depends.
Yeah.
So S300V is the real threat. Everybody's fairly familiar with S300, but when most people say S300, they mean S300P specifically. There's different versions of it. So again, S300P, that's the version that most people think of when you say S300. S400 is an S300P derivative. The very short cliff notes of the history is that in the 70s, there was a joint project to develop a long-range surface-to-air missile system for the Soviet ground forces, the Soviet Navy, and the Soviet air defense forces. The project had to be split up because of differing requirements. The air defense forces and the Navy were focused on cruise missiles and anti-ship missiles, aerodynamic threats. The ground forces, they were focused on defeating ballistic threats like U.S. Lance tactical ballistic missiles and Pershing short-range ballistic missiles. So the 2 programs basically diverged. And so you got S-300P operated by the Air Defense Forces, S-300F, which is just a navalized version of S-300P. That was what was installed on Moskva. And then finally you have S-300V, which is the version used by the ground forces. And S-300V is totally different. It's optimized, again, for defeating ballistic missiles. S-300P and S-400, the later versions of S-300P, as well as S-400, they do have some ABM, anti-ballistic missile capability, but it's not fantastic. in general, I would expect them to achieve a very low intercept rate with those systems against ATACMS, especially against an aeroballistic and maneuvering ballistic threat like ATACMS. S300V becomes problematic though. Very, very rough estimate. I'm guessing that for a heavily defended target that's protected by potentially multiple S300V batteries, they could probably generate a 30, 40, maybe 50% intercept rate. S300V is a very capable system against ballistic missiles, to put it mildly. It's no Patriot, but it's still quite good. It's much more capable against ballistic missiles than S300 and S400, or S300P and S400 are against cruise missiles, to kind of give you an idea here. So again, against targets that aren't protected by S300V, I'd expect probably a 0 to 10% interception rate. Maybe a Buk gets lucky once or twice. But against S300V protected sites, it's going to be more challenging.
What's the blast radius of these the cluster munitions? What's the kill radius?
I think they disperse the submunitions over about a 130 meter radius, I believe.
Okay, because I measured these helicopters, I was curious.
Yeah, Colby has like an estimate on his thread based upon some imagery that he drew some circles on.
These helicopters at this little base, which is this was their main helicopter base when they were fighting in Kherson. So it's 210 meters apart from this little pile of helicopters here. So one ATACMS could kill all 5 of those helicopters.
In terms of language, the other question regarding what can the Russians do to respond. So in terms of once ATACMS is launched, there's nothing they can do. They're hosed unless there's an S300V nearby. That's just a simple fact. In terms of what they could do proactively, obviously the first thing would be disperse the helicopters farther apart on the heliports, as a passive measure to reduce the number of helicopters that are lost during a strike. That'd be the most immediate thing to do. They could try to relocate the helicopters to another site that's, perhaps protected by S300V. Those would really be the 2 main countermeasures, or they could redeploy S300V to existing sites from wherever they're currently deployed. Those would really be the 3 main suite of options that they have at their disposal.
Has Ukraine killed 2 S300s? Was that?
They've killed portions of at least 2 batteries. In both cases in Kherson, I think that the Russians have them weirdly forward deployed in Kherson specifically.
Yeah, they were like over here, if I remember right. I think. I can't remember. Gik, do you remember? I think they were near Skadovsk though, like so over here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the rough area. Yeah.
Which is a weird place. And then they keep getting I can't remember what hit them. It was Gimlers, right?
In both cases, yeah, Gimlers.
It's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. So in the ATACMS, they won't need any ground agent like Johnny Miller, right? To guide the missiles in.
Well, I mean, they don't need a ground agent for Gimlers. I mean, beyond confirming that the target's present and perhaps, confirming its coordinates potentially, although in reality, you'd probably do that with satellite imagery usually. It's not laser guided or anything like that.
Oh, I was joking. But you might have missed that from earlier.
Oh, no, I got the joke. I just decided to give you a serious response.
Andrew, can you tell the story?
You tell the story.
Oh, but your English is better and you're funnier. I'm German.
I want you to tell it though.
Yeah, I mean, let's try to keep it short. But yeah, there's this British guy who was touring the Russian occupied areas as well as Russia, and I think he claims he's based in Moscow, but currently lives in Sevastopol. And he was basically on ground in the harbor area in Sevastopol today, and he normally puts out the pretty normal Russian propaganda bullshit. But yeah, today he was actually doing the BDA, you can say. So he was in the harbor, he was filming selfies while the second missile arrived. He was talking about the smoke, and at the same time as everything exploded, he was praising the Russian air defense. And the thing is that his statements or his videos, they were so easy to basically cut in a different way. If I hope I'm not blundering it. But anyway, it was so easy to cut it in a different way to make his video vastly pro-Ukrainian. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on Djibouti's Twitter account.
Yeah, it's really funny. And then he had to release I don't know, what would you call it? It's kind of like an apology. It's like, guys, I want you to know that I'm on the Russian side.
Yeah, not only that, he's actually blasting with how much of a Russian agent he is. He's making clear that everyone knows that he's absolutely employed by the Russian Ministry of Defense and so on, or whatever. Yeah, what a guy.
Yeah, he's pretty proud of it, to be honest. I'm trying to figure out how to play the video in this stream. I forgot how, because I haven't done this in a while. I think I have to do this. Oh boy. Yeah, it's not working. Oh well. You could go watch it. Djibouti has the video. And it's really funny. And whatever.
Should we talk about the alleged happening southwest of Sevastopol yesterday, or not?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet.
John, how many S-300Vs do you think Russia has available right now?
I have no idea. I have a old rough estimate for S-300Ps and an 8-year-old estimate for S-400 batteries. That's definitely wrong by now, but I have no numbers for S-300V whatsoever.
Has an S-300V shot down a ballistic missile, in an actual combat situation?
Well, Ukrainian S-300Vs have.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm slightly concerned, because they literally have the most ancient S-300Vs in existence. The S-300V1s, I think they literally have the first 2 battalions ever manufactured. They don't even have the 9M82 interceptors, just the 9M83s. They were able to defeat a couple of Skanderams with those.
Okay.
And the Russian ones have been decently upgraded from that. And again, the Ukrainians were able to do that with the most ancient one in existence. So
I have a question for John. So, is there a possible way for Ukraine to detect the type of radar the S-300V uses, so they can determine where they're located, how many they are, when they're on, etc.?
yeah, I'm sure there's ways to do that with radio direction finding. That's kind of outside my area of expertise, so I don't really comment on it because I won't know what I'm talking about. But I imagine, yeah, that's definitely possible. With different types of radio direction finding assets, perhaps with some high resolution, synthetic aperture radar imagery, space-based, you could probably do that. But as to actual specifics beyond that, that's totally outside my area of knowledge.
Because the radars are different, aren't they?
I'd have, they are different. S-300V uses a different suite of radars than S-300P. So you could probably, with the right type of surveillance assets and the right type of analysis tools, if you have, data with sufficient fidelity, you can probably distinguish them, I would guess.
Okay. So, where should we go from here? I don't...
Well, first, let it be known that, Russia now shifts all of their S-300Vs to the important target areas. It's because of John. Let this be known.
Yeah. Why do you hate Ukraine?
It's because of that damn ABC reporter that leaked all of this like 2 weeks ago. Well, not the reporter. Shouldn't blame the reporter. It's whatever. This is the problem with the White House and the DoD. Unless it's like in a strictly classified form, everything gets leaked.
Okay. So, shifting a little bit. I don't think this is much of a different topic, but Russia's been doing a lot of airstrikes. Like a lot of airstrikes. And Ukraine is claiming that the number is up. It's not just like a sampling bias or, a reporting bias. That they are actually doing a lot more airstrikes. A lot of the airstrikes are they're most commonly reported on the Dnipro River. I don't know if that's sampling bias. I kind of think that is. I kind of assume that they're doing more airstrikes everywhere. But I don't really know what to make of this like really sharp increase in airstrikes, because they went from doing like 30 a day to like way more. Like, I don't know how many they're doing, but it seems like it's closer to like 100 a day. Like it's a lot.
Andrew, could it be that they are actually shifting artillery out of the Kherson area towards, Zaporizhia? And they're making up for that with airstrikes?
I mean, it could be, but they're doing a ton of airstrikes in Zaporizhia too. Like, I didn't get to actually finish updating the map today, but they've been doing tons of airstrikes on Orkhiv and Malotokmaka. They do tons of airstrikes on Verbatana. They're doing airstrikes like all over Zaporizhia. So, like there have been days where they're doing 10 plus airstrikes on just Orkhiv, just by one city. And they're also doing a lot of airstrikes around Donetsk, and around the New York area. Like in the past, like 2 days, we've had to geolocate like 7, 8 airstrikes around Toretsk, just Toretsk. So there's just tons of airstrikes. They're also doing more airstrikes in the Sumy area, and Chernihiv. It's almost impossible to get news from Chernihiv because the Chernihiv government doesn't like report anything, and the Chernihiv police don't report anything. So it's like really difficult to get info from there. But what I do get is that they're also doing more airstrikes in Chernihiv, and they're also doing more airstrikes around in the Kharkiv area as well. So they've been doing all sorts of strikes on kind of like the second line, the second Ukrainian line behind the first one. So it's just tons of airstrikes everywhere. Like I don't. Like maybe it's because they're running lower on artillery, or maybe it's just because they've more wing kits for their bombs. Like I don't know. We do have some humorous videos of them claiming the accuracy of their bombs and the bombs missing. Just like some of them missing by like a lot too. It's although some of their bombs are incredibly accurate, so it's kind of a mixed bag. I'm also not really sure why some of the bombs are more accurate than others. Like John, do you have any opinion or any idea why sometimes the bomb misses just like an enormous amount, and other times it's like a perfect hit?
I would hazard a guess that perhaps Ukrainian electronic warfare may be playing some games here. I don't know if the UMPKs use ECM hardened like GNSS packages. Open question. I haven't seen I guess a complete technical teardown of one that would indicate that they do or do not. But if they don't, and there's probably a decent chance that they don't, then Ukrainian EW in some circumstances could seriously degrade its precision potentially. It could also just be really bad quality control between individual bombs. That's also another possibility.
Sometimes they miss by hundreds of meters, and it's kind of weird.
I think that's consistent with the bombings in Syria, bombing rates in Syria as well. I remember reading that they were trying to fix it, but they had some problems with basically the calibration of the unit
GLONASS.
in yeah in the
So
airplane. So the launch control unit had to have some sort of synchronization with the bomb, and yeah, it wasn't working properly. They they claimed to fix it, but then the results were more or less the same, and that was like 6 years ago, I think.
So GLONASS did really bad in Syria, and especially at the beginning, like their GLONASS guided munitions performed quite poorly. They improved it somewhat later on by installing differential correction stations, like on the ground, in and around Syria. That helped a decent bit. Like they were getting like 15 plus meter CEPs, I think, with the differential correction stations. I think they were allegedly able to get it down to around 10. Potentially. But yeah, GLONASS did not do really well in Syria. They had issues with just their guided bombs. They had issues with the KH-101s getting lost. Like I remember there was one salvo they did and half of them got lost and crashed and like landed in Iran. Yeah, it was just not a good time for the Russians in terms of the efficacy of their PGMs.
And they've been doing that this war too. I mean, they dropped like 8 bombs on the Antonovsky Bridge. I don't mean literally the bridge, but around it. And like every single bomb landed in the river. Like they were trying to drop it on this like little town here, and all of the bombs were landing in the river. It's incredible. It's like you'd think that like if you were to drop a whole bunch of bombs, maybe a few of them would miss like the other direction, but they all miss long. It's amusing.
Well, one thing I would add is that the U.S.'s first precision-guided bomb, Bolt 117, we dropped like a couple of the first time they were used. All of them got direct hits on the bridge they were used on in the 70s in Vietnam. I just like to point that out.
Okay. Regarding more missile-related news, Krakow was hit by 2 Iskander M's, I think, last night. It did pretty significant damage. It destroyed multiple structures. 13 apartment buildings were damaged, a transformer, and garages and cars and stuff. And there's like 90 wounded. I think it was 92 wounded total. So that is more kind of missile related news. I'm not really sure what they're doing targeting Krakow, unless they are, and it seems that this may be the case, unless they're trying to target this power plant. But I don't actually know. This dot is not geolocated. It's just kind of random. But I don't actually know where the missiles landed, and I also don't understand if they were trying to hit the power plant, why they didn't hit the power. The power plant's pretty big, so I don't know. Yeah. So, anyways, I guess we could move on to different types of news now. Gick, where do you think we should go next? What do you think's interesting?
Maybe let's go to the Streitwagen 122 to the Leopard. So start in the north. So we arrive at the most interesting part in Verbove at the end.
Okay. Yeah. So these were damaged like way behind the front, right? So it seems that they should have been safe, for at least relatively safe where they were, and I honestly have no idea how they were disabled.
Yeah. That's it. I have so many questions, Andrew.
I have no answers. So
because if they were disabled in that field, this should be a Ukrainian minefield. If it is a minefield at all.
I will tell you one thing that I know, and I don't really know what this means, but I just know this to be a fact. Russia does shell this field quite often. And you can see the shelling in this video. You can see the craters. So I do know that they do shell this field, and I've always assumed Ukraine had some sort of artillery there. I never, I honestly was not considering that the artillery was a tank. But I guess you can use a tank as artillery. So I don't think this Lancet actually damaged the tank. It came in on a very bad angle, and I think if anything, it hit the idler wheel. But yeah, you can sort of see the craters in that video. But on like Sentinel, you could see like every once in a while this field just gets shelled a lot. I always thought that Ukraine was moving up like an SPG to shoot somewhere very far away, like somewhere like in Svatova or even further. That was kind of my thought, but maybe they just put tanks there. I don't know. So yeah, there were two tanks here too, right? Two of them were disabled.
Yeah, exactly. And the other one, I think there's smoke coming from the turret, from inside the turret. The hatches are open on all two tanks, so that's one of the things which are not too nice. And I think this one is smoking from the turret, so it might have penetrated.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate and weird thing. I feel like we're going to get more explanation on this at some point. It seems that whenever we see something this bizarre, there's got to be an explanation, and it usually comes out like a month later, right?
Yeah.
No. So I don't know, Ireland. What are your emotions watching these things? There's some smoke.
No, I don't have any specific comment. Like,
I don't even know what they would be engaging, to be honest, because this field is flat up until, yeah, I think it's just flat actually. I guess we can look at the 3D.
It's kind of on a slope. The field itself is sloping down towards that little stream, so it's actually it's pretty exposed, and that's why I think that even recovering those vehicles might be quite hard.
Yeah, I don't even know what they would be engaging. Is more my thinking is like, what would you shoot from here, unless there are people like there, but isn't that's triggering to me because this is what mortars are for. Shoot the mortars, please. This is
so unless you really have like a video taken from where that tank is located, it's really difficult to judge what they can see because it can be hindered by vegetation, or it can be hindered by minor geographical details that are not a part of this map.
Yep. Yep.
So
It's just overall weird. It's just one of those things that I have no explanation for these things getting hit, but they were. So we can
could be negligence as well, or just like a completely coincidence.
Maybe they're remote controlled tanks. I don't think they're remote controlled tanks. I think they're just tanks.
Let's just. I mean, we've seen that there was some sort of wood or something on the turret. Let's just claim it's mock-ups. Let's cope and feel better.
So in Novoselivska, Ukraine has entered the town at least twice. I don't know if they actually control any of the town. I just know that they've reached around roughly here, and I have no idea what happened after that. And we also know that Russia has entered, does kind of northern part of the same street, and I don't know if they control it or if they just enter sometimes and then are forced to leave. So this town is a gray area. I have no idea what's going on here, other than we know Ukraine has entered it at least twice. Yep. Well,
Yeah, I think it's telling. If you go back, I think to yesterday or the day before, maybe the day before even. Oh, then it's that old even.
yeah, it is
Because
is a
I
good
remember
one, yeah.
exactly that's the day. I remember I geolocated basically 2 videos inside Novosibirsk on the same day from both sides. So that's really interesting to if you have those footages on the same day and you start asking what is going on here.
Yeah, one is Ukraine dropping grenades from a drone, and the other was Russia shooting mortars or something at the town. And then in this same video there was a big explosion, which may be an airstrike, or I think they claimed it was like an ammo cache explosion. I don't know. I It seems more like an airstrike, but I have no idea. But this event, this airstrike, and that shelling was the same video. So Novoselivska is it's hot, it's active, and we can see that there's pretty heavy Russian shelling along this road. I mean, kind of obviously, and similarly along this road, which is both logical. So it doesn't really tell us much. So yeah, is there? Wait, is this actually Russian shelling? Oh yeah, I remember. I remember that now. It was. I think this video is old. That's why I. Do you think this video is old? Because I think you're the one who geolocated it.
I don't remember if I thought that was old. I need to watch the video again. Sometimes, I'm so focused on tree lines that I don't recognize,
Yeah, I remember.
grass and trees.
Yeah, I remember mapping this yesterday, and I looked at the video. I thought it was old. I think it might be like 2 or 3 weeks old. Because Russia more is like somewhat recently advanced here. So I think this video was prior to that advance. It may have actually been part of the advance. Anyways.
Do you want to talk about the Novoyehorovivka videos, which came out, I think, yesterday or the day before?
I don't really have anything to say. Do you mean the flyover video?
Yeah, we had several. Yeah, we also had the satellite images. I think you showed those on stream already, but we also had the Ukrainian militant video. So there are a bunch of videos which are actually super interesting right now to see the entire scenery, basically, of that battle and the huge losses that the Russians have taken there.
Oh yeah, these losses are incredible. I can't remember if I can show this video or not. I can't. I'm gonna stop it if it seems bad. So yeah, this is a disabled tank. I think this was a T90, right? If I remember right, I think it's a T90, and I think this is a T80 BVM. Can't remember. But yeah, are these the crew of the tank? I don't actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they abandoned the tank to be safe, and yeah, I was just gonna tell you maybe you should pause now. Let's just say that the tank might have been safer for them.
Yeah. So yeah, what if I, instead of playing it, I just skip through it? Oh, never mind. they're taking naps. Okay. Yeah, that video's not good.
Sleepy Russians.
Anyways, yeah, this is why I didn't talk about the video last time. Like I can't. But yeah, it's like this photo's nice and safe for us. You can see a Lancet. I don't know what the Lancet's doing, but it's doing something. And this whole area, this attack was one of the largest attacks that Russia's done this year. Probably. The intensity of fighting was not as great as like Rabatana. But it was very intense. It was probably on par of like Eurogina, probably. And like this was one of the biggest battles of the year. And it did not get that much press, in large part because I think the brigades involved were both, some of them were new brigades. And I think for that reason, they don't do much press. And I think that the existing, like the older brigades, the more experienced ones that were there, were brigades that just don't do press. So there was not much talking in this assault, or this just giant battle. But I mean, we can kind of roll back time a little bit. Russia did advance pretty significantly. They advanced like up to here, I guess, like up to there, and Ukraine pushed them back, and then Russia tried to push them back again, and in it was really this second phase when Russia tried to do their second push that they took extremely high casualties. The initial push, the talk of how everybody described it doesn't match the satellite imagery, and I think they were all making up lies. Basically, they said that it was a huge artillery duel, but in the satellite we couldn't, like, it was almost impossible to even find artillery craters. Like there was like 5. If I remember right, this, between these two tree lines was the only place that we could find, or at least I could find, any artillery in that entire battle. And also I guess I think in this tree line too. So but that was like the very initial push of that attack. So the initial push, I think, was relatively light. We saw some videos of the attacks. What was kind of amusing is that the videos of the attacks came several weeks before either side even said the attack happened. So we had all of these videos of what was going on. And from what I could tell, I tried geolocating them and I failed because I didn't even think to look here, because this area didn't really have combat for a really long time. I thought the videos were like over here and I couldn't find it, and I was very frustrated. But I was looking in the wrong spot. So, but I didn't see anybody geolocate those videos until after the news came out that the attacks were there. And it was kind of like everybody was like, oh wait, those videos from like 2 weeks ago, that's what all these talking is about. And it's kind of crazy that both sides kept it quiet for so long, although they were publishing videos, but they weren't actually telling anyone where the videos were from, and nobody figured it out from what I could tell. And anyways, so
But Andrew, just one thing, because you said that it might be because of the brigades involved there. One thing to note is actually on the Russian side, it's supposedly the fourth guard, which, they are well kitted, and that was if you watch those videos, there are several T90Ms and so on.
Yeah.
So that was actually, from the Russian side, that wasn't just some small brigade or something like that, which doesn't do PR. It was actually some pretty serious attack which failed.
Yeah. Well, the initial push was a success. And it seemed that Ukraine, I think they were caught off guard and withdrew without fighting very hard, because there's no signs of major fighting. There was no artillery damage. There's like, if you look at the satellite imagery, it looks like literally nothing happened. And then they did a counterattack. They retook some ground, and after they retook this ground, this right here became a major battlefield, very, very major. Russia was pushing in tons of armor up these tree lines, trying to capture this position. They used tons of air power, dozens and dozens of airstrikes. You can see bomb craters everywhere. There's probably missile strikes as well. There's all sorts of MRL, sorry, strikes. Some of them are rather large. which makes me think they might be like Uragons or Smirch or something. They're very large craters. We can see kind of where each side's artillery was positioned because you could see kind of the artillery duels in where the craters were landing. Craters are where they formed. So this was just an absolutely enormous battle. And at the end of the battle, we could count dozens of Russian losses and their highest end equipment. T90Ms, the what was it like the T72 B3Ms, the ones that were manufactured like last year, and BMP3s, BMP2s. But it was all the best kit that Russia has. They threw at this, and it was a total failure. They are now claiming that they've advanced slightly, that they've taken this tree line, which I've seen no evidence of at all. This tree line doesn't even exist anymore, but they claim that they've moved up to like here, and that they are any day now they're going to capture Novoyehorivka. I don't see any evidence of them advancing. I don't know about you, but yeah, this is it was a huge battle, very significant, and a total failure. And we've kind of talked about Russian losses in terms of their armor and how sustainable it is, and they've been losing a lot of armor in the south, defending and counterattacking around like Rabatina and Eurozhina and other places like Staromayorska and Makarivka. All those huge counterattacks they did where they lost tons of armor. And then they do this huge attack where they lose all their best armor on top of it. Instead of losing like T80 BVs, they're losing T90Ms. People are asking me if I know like the exact losses. We have everything that we could find in our spreadsheet, but I have not tabulated this exact battle, how many losses there. Gik, how do you have an estimate?
I will have one in a couple of minutes because Lost War in UA is a mapping, or basically they keep a map and track all losses, and most of those are actually geolocated, so you can easily look it up there. I guess I can post the link into the chat of the YouTube video once it's loaded for me, and then you can just check it out yourself.
I have a video that I can't share, but it's a video from right here, and it's basically a Ukrainian drone just kind of flew in like this and then flew back out. But just right here, there were like 5 tanks and like 7 BMPs, just in this like little corner of this field. It's not even a full farm field. Just this little corner of a field is just, and the tanks there are like T90Ms, T80 BVMs, like it's just like all the best stuff they got. I do remember reading that Russia lost 6 tanks in a day, like 3 days in a row here. But anyways, a different topic slightly. How many admirals does Russia have? Just out of curiosity.
Fewer.
Fewer than before, yeah.
So my understanding is, so this guy Solokov, I think is his name. He was appointed as commander of the Black Sea Fleet after what's his name, Osipov, who was the commander at the beginning of the invasion. After he was sacked after Moskva got Neptuned. So yeah, he's been in this position for a year and a half ish now, a little under a year and a half.
Okay. was a very exciting year for him, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I'm surprised. I mean, he lasted this long.
Well, I don't know. Who are you gonna replace him with? It's like, who else is there? I don't know.
Andrew, apparently the link I
Yeah,
sent in the chat didn't work. I will share the link in Discord if you want to open it. It's probably gonna load like 20 to 30 seconds or something.
okay.
But then you can just show it on screen and actually show the vehicles.
Yep. So I'll load it up. At some point, we need to figure out how to show like our data differently, because it's all set up to show by the day. We should probably try to figure out how to show like by vehicle type or something like that. That'd be cool. I don't know if we can do that though. Yeah, here we go. Here's some vehicles. Yeah, yeah, we've basically mapped all of this over time.
And you can click on them and it will show you a picture basically as a proof.
Yeah.
And if anyone out there wants to basically then continue seeing further footage and videos of how they sometimes get destroyed, there's a link to the Telegram of Lost War in UA. Check it out. It's actually really useful, and I use it a lot for geolocating stuff. Sometimes they're just faster than us, but that's perfect. Don't click on those. Those are Ukrainian losses. They didn't happen.
Okay.
I think yellow is an unknown type, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, this one says T72B3 question mark.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't think
I remember that video though. I remember it.
I don't think that's a T72B3. Anyways.
Don't ask me. I'm gonna sell you a what was it, 2S1 for a BMP?
I think that was more. Anyway, I don't think that was a B3. That doesn't look like B3 armor to me, or ERA. Yeah, I'll tweet that later, or I'll put it in the link to. I'll put it in the description. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll put it in the description. I'll do that right now, so I don't forget. There. Now it's in the description. Anyways, in the Bilahorivka area, we've been getting more videos from here, but like yesterday we had a video from what was it, from Kadyrov or whatever. And we couldn't locate it. It was a hard video to locate because I think part of the video was right here on the river, like right over here, and another part of the video was like over here somewhere, but I couldn't tell if it may have been over here somewhere. But anyways, it was Ukraine getting shelled somewhere in this general area around Bilahorivka and Hryhorivka. Or yeah, whatever. Yeah, we're getting increasing information from here because it used to be like an information black hole, but none of the information changes anything. It's just all things we already knew. So, and the same is generally true for Sperna and Veseli, by the way. Oh, or there were some changes in Veseli actually. The past few days, we had video of Ukrainians getting droned and further down the rail line than they than we had them prior, which was kind of interesting. I honestly think this whole rail line is just a gray area. It's there's nothing there to defend. It's like all of the trees are mostly destroyed, and the trenches are mostly destroyed as well. So I'm not really sure what there is to defend. And I think the level of destruction along this rail line is so great that it impedes attacking in either direction. Because you obviously you have to move through it. So now Russia is like trying to go around, and they've kind of climbed this hill over here, and they're kind of trying to go this way to just get around this dead area. But I don't think that's gonna work. There's really no changes north of Bakhmut that I know of. Russia is now attacking Ryhorivka, which they hadn't really been doing before. I don't really know which vector they're attacking on, other than they say it's from the northeast. They could be attacking down this tree line, which Ukraine tried to attacking north up this tree line and it failed. Or they could be attacking down this tree line, or they could be attacking this way. I'm not really sure. So yeah, the whole northern north of Bakhmut is totally unchanged. Now in Klashivka, I don't really know what to say. There's been enormous counterattacks. They've been counterattacking basically constantly, trying to push Ukraine back out of Klashivka for some reason. I don't Rivka. So, and they've also been attacking around Kurdyumivka. So they're trying to push Ukraine away from this rail line. I don't understand why. I understand that the rail line is incredibly important to Russia, but at the same time they've lost it already. Like it's the value it had is gone now because they lost it. If they wanted, like they shouldn't have lost it if it was so important to them. You know what I mean? Like, but it's over. Like, move back, go defend your next line. Like I just they're losing so much infantry doing this, and they can't attack with armor. Even if they wanted to, they can't, because there's no way to transport armor to these towns anymore. There's no roads, there's no bridges. They can't move the armor through these lowland water areas. It's impassable terrain to like a tank or a BMP. So these are just all infantry assaults, and they're supported by like helicopters and stuff, but it makes no sense. None of this makes sense.
And if you check the videos for that area, basically east of the railway and southeast of the railway, there are in the last couple of weeks there were like hundreds of drone videos in that area. So it's almost like, Ukraine is effectively having some sort of air control with drones over that area, and any vehicle that moves in that direction, it gets struck.
Yeah.
There was I remember there were I think around 5 or 6 videos at the very same location. They were just loitering over the area, waiting for the next vehicle to come. Yeah, exactly, probably those. It's actually incredible.
Yeah, they've been basically controlling this road with drones for a long time, and there's obviously nothing Russia can do about it. I'm sure they're trying to do some sort of electronic warfare to stop it, but it's not working. Because it's like we don't know. Just because like we're not getting videos doesn't mean nothing's happening. So like all these days where there's nothing, there could very well be more videos that they just never released those days. Maybe the video was bad quality or something. They didn't feel like showing it. So, yeah, these, and then that video came out today. I don't really want to talk about it. You could.
We should describe it.
Well, it was an MTLB. I think it's an MTLB. It's actually a genuinely difficult vehicle to identify, but I think it's an MTLB. And they were driving down the road, and this guy, his spider senses kicked in. Right? It was like, I'm not sure he had a reason to be scared, but he felt it. You know, he felt something, and he just jumped off the MTLB straight in front of the MTLB.
I mean, he might have seen the FPV drone there.
I don't know. I don't think you can see it because the drone is still pretty far away, and it's very small, and you can't hear it because the MTLB is very loud.
But what is curious to me is that we don't see the drone continuing to strike that MTLB, which makes me think that the drone operator was probably laughing so much he had to abort that mission.
Oh, he did dive on it.
Oh, did he? Didn't I miss that part?
Yeah, he did dive on it. I have a
okay.
still of him diving on it.
Oh, that was the same vehicle later. Because there was a cut, I thought that was another vehicle struck then.
I'm pretty sure it's the same vehicle.
Oh, okay, yeah. In that case, yeah, I guess it makes sense.
He was kind of following it like behind by like 200 or 300 meters behind it, and then when that happened, I think it kind of flew a circle and then went back after it. So yeah, that guy's spider senses, they kicked in. He just didn't use them right. You know, it happens. So I've had some questions about this. Which Zaitsev is people's questions. Because Ukraine has said that Russia is attacking west of Zaitsev. Now, I am almost certain where they're attacking is right here. Because again, they're trying to push Ukraine away from the train tracks. I'm almost certain this is where they're attacking. Failing that, it's here. Because these are kind of symmetric, really. They're kind of the same things in two different places. So it's either there, which I'm pretty sure it is, or if not, it's here. So both of these locations are west of Zaitsev, I guess. And people ask which Zaitsev because there's two of them. It doesn't really matter which Zaitsev, because the other one's up here. But I don't think. Anyway, they're attacking here. The Russians described it very differently. They did not describe it as west of Zaitsev. They described it as towards Pivnichne, which is this town right here. I don't know why it says Druzhba, because Druzhba is exclusively these houses. And the rest is Pivnichne. Anyway, so Russia claims that they launched an assault on Pivnichne and had no success. And again, it could either be there or there, because they just want to control this rail line. It's very important to them. Critically important rail line at this point. Anyways, we already talked about these airstrikes in Turetsk, and moving on down. Why does it keep zooming out? My mouse is like all funky. I think I got some cheese in it. Anyways, this railway here, this little area, I've previously talked about how important this area is because it was a major minefield, and now that we have Russia shelling it, it says a lot, because they're not only shelling this area, but they're shelling the densest part of the minefield, which is fascinating. Did you have any opinion of this video when you saw it?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
What kind of opinion?
It seems this video seems like it means nothing, but it's so important. It's so important.
You know, the thing is that sometimes we're trying to apply logic to Russian doing, and that's not always basically the way to truth. Sometimes it's just Russian doing, which is, illogical.
So, kind of zooming in here, this position is the intersection of the railway and the highway, both of which are very important, by the way. And the railway goes over the highway. It's an overpass that has long since collapsed. And this overpass, like the remainder of it, is basically been used as a fortification. Along both sides, there's trenches. So you can see trenches here, and there's also trenches over there. And these trenches go all the way back to this kind of access road. And this access road marks the beginning of the minefield. So the minefield basically goes from kind of like these trees to this road, and it went up this road all the way to around here and wrapped around, and there was like a really dense portion of the minefield just outside the tree line, and then just inside the tree line, roughly here, was another super dense portion. And by dense, I mean it's not really a minefield; it's more of a bomb. The mines are like touching each other, and like a lot of them. So that's what this was. It was a minefield to protect the flank here. Now, I do not believe Russia was manning any of this. I don't think they were manning this defensive position. I think they were just using this as a buffer, and their defenses were actually more down here. So yes, this is all very this video is very interesting to me for that reason. Moving on to Avdiivka, I have no news from Avdiivka. It's like it's getting hit by airstrikes and stuff, but what isn't? Krasnohorivka, we had the church video yesterday, or whatever. It looks like a church. Maybe it's a temple. I don't know. But it was hit by a drone and burned down. And yesterday I decided to finally put this area, this mine into Russian control, because I've been kind of 50-50 on whether Russia controls it or if it's still a gray area. But Ukraine released this video of a tank shelling it repeatedly, and this is not the first time. This is like, I don't know, this is like, there's been like 6 of them, right? So it's probably in Russian control at this point. Moving on down, Marinka, there's no news. In Mikhailska, Russia is assaulting. I believe they're assaulting these dacha. They might be assaulting these dacha. I'm not entirely sure. It's very unclear. There's no actual, there's no directionality, no vector. There's no real information. They just say Russia's attacking near Mikhailska. So it's either this dacha, that dacha, or this upper path to this dacha. So I don't know. Beyond that, Vuhledar has been getting extremely heavily shelled in both artillery and airstrikes. A number of people have been wounded. One person was killed. So anyways, in Novomayorsk, Ukraine's attack failed, and it seems that they've basically pulled back to where they started from. Novodonetsk, they kept saying that there was an assault on Novodonetsk, but we never had video of that. There's no actual evidence that I could ever find of them assaulting Novodonetsk, right? Did you see anything?
No, the only thing of that alleged assault was south west of it, so
Yeah.
still in the fields here, and I think the tanks got damaged or immobilized. Was it even still in Ukrainian controlled area? I'm not entirely sure. So around here where you are.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing we saw. But
we have some satellite imagery from here. I can't remember where it was. Maybe it was the 18th. Yeah. So this area was getting really heavily shelled, and the shelling is gradually moving west. So initially the shelling was almost exclusively on this tree line, and now it's moving west, which is interesting. So but yeah, there was no actual evidence that they attacked the actual town. It was just basically Russians just saying they were, with no evidence. So, anyway, moving on. Yozhina, we have no news. In Prutny, Ukraine is apparently assaulting Prutny. I have not seen any video or anything really to support this, but I just kind of drew an arrow because both Ukraine and Russia said they are attacking. So beyond that, I don't really have any info. The Hulapula area, really no changes. It's just airstrikes and rocket attacks and all the normal, usual stuff. And now getting down to Verbova and Rabatina. So I don't. Do you wanna talk about this area? Because I feel like I've been talking too much.
Well, maybe I just say that I think the good news is that Ukraine is now evidently behind the Surovikin line, so behind those dragon teeth, with mechanized forces. So we have seen strikers, we have seen martyrs, but also what was it? M113s, I think,
Yep.
which definitely crossed the Surovikin line. So that is the good news. Unfortunately, we have seen that several of those were struck, either destroyed or immobilized at least.
One thing of note is that the strikers had mine rollers and they were creating a path for vehicles behind them.
So I mean, the footage is super interesting. What I find remarkable is that, you know, in any of those videos, we can see them turning south. So they must have crossed the Surovikin line, you know, somewhere up there, up where your mouse is currently not is. Yeah.
And they're moving south in two different places too. So
exactly, they were
along the
moving
line
south
and Westerline.
in two different places, and that's I think very interesting because it, in my opinion, it could also tell us something about their ultimate goal. You know, if you want to, as an example, if you want to secure that big trench line towards Novoprokopivka, you know, that could be something to force the Russians to abandon that position. Maybe it's that. I don't know. What do you think? Why are they going south?
I kind of think that they want to like carve out this whole big chunk here and keep driving a wedge.
But in terms of, you know, Russian defensive positions, which are typically around the tree lines here, wouldn't you think that maybe progress could be made faster in Verbove, or going through Verbove, because the town is quite long. I think it's 3 kilometers long.
Can I add a point here?
Yeah, just talk.
Yeah. So if you kind of try and move the map, like in order to think a little bit outside the box, instead of just thinking north south, think west east, and then you try to look at the pattern of how the Ukrainians have been doing the counteroffensive, both in this area of the map, but also on the Velika Novosilka axis. They've always expanded the flanks before they went on the main attack for any settlement or important position. So moving south to ensure not just one, but maybe two more routes into Verbova would make a lot of sense. Maybe move north as well, but in one point I wouldn't, because the more you move south here, the more Verbova becomes trapped in a wedge. Especially, so if you want to flank them, I would flank them from way up north. So basically 10 kilometers north, something like that. And then move a lot closer beyond the Surovikin line in the south, expanding the flank there. Essentially, you'll put them in a very, very bad situation.
Yeah, but Andrew, can you look at that topography on Google Earth maybe? Because I remember seeing that Russian position north of Verbove overlooking the village, and it seemed like that was fairly high ground. So going into Verbove, you would, or I personally would kind of expect to see Ukraine trying to secure the northern side of Verbove.
Here I come. Okay.
Look from north to south.
North to south.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. So it is a slight incline going up. And I want to keep in mind that all of this is exaggerated by 3x. So it's a 300% exaggeration on the z-axis. So yeah, it is going uphill south, but although it's gradual, it's not like cliffs. It's not giant hills. It's just more of a gradual incline, and the same is generally true on the northern side. So,
But if you go south, you actually have the possibility to move somewhat concealed towards Verbove. If you move north from trying to expand your flank that you already have, you're basically moving uphill the whole time. So it's not very favorable.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
straight north there is basically moving a little bit up in the terrain compared to.
yeah. Now Ukraine has been completely stuck here. Now the brigade fighting here is not really like an attacking brigade. They're more of a defensive brigade that's been thrown into this. It's the 15th Brigade, so they're what a National Guard brigade, right? So they're not really designed to assault obstacles. They're more defense. So they've been stuck here. They've been shelling, especially this tree line. It's taken a lot of shelling damage, a lot of artillery damage. I don't even think they're going after this tree line. They're just trying to focus on this one, but
if you go even longer northeast,
okay. Yeah,
so
it is basically it
10
is
fields up.
yeah, it is going uphill the entire time, more or less, until around here, when you would then have the high ground over Verbova if that was your goal. So yeah, this, and also keep in mind that a lot of this is probably a minefield.
Yeah.
And a very dense minefield at that, because this was all like was meant to be kind of the front line. If you remember how difficult it was to go through all these minefields, like these minefields are probably just as difficult. Whereas these down here further south are probably not as dense, I imagine.
Because I bet you if you expand the flank even further south, the Russians would be forced into a dilemma to if they want to keep defending that northern flank, or if they want to solidify their defenses in Verbove or even east of Verbove.
Yeah, I kind of think Ukraine is going to. I don't know if they're going to jump to this trench down here. That might be difficult, but I think at least they're going to go down and follow this trench and kind of clear out this whole area. I think, and it may have already happened, to be honest. Gick, did you ever locate that Rusich video today?
Oh no, not yet. I'm not sure if I have looked at it even.
I tried locating it, and I couldn't. It was very frustrating because I think this video could potentially show a new front line. I'm not sure where it is. I could describe the video to you. It has.
I know where it is.
Okay, where is it?
So that's boring. That's the main road into Verbove.
Oh, it's that road.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. You see that long trench line system going from.
I thought it was this
northwest.
trench. Oh, that's so disappointing. Never mind. I don't
No,
care.
that's really boring. That video.
Yeah, it is.
I just opened it, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have?
By the way, oh sorry, Alan.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Alan.
you can talk about it later. But if you have the video of these not MRAPs, but the APCs that were driving in the middle of the field, if we could take a minute to talk about that, because there's been a lot of talk and chatter about like how muddy it is, but isn't that exactly the same as we've seen since June?
I think I don't see mud when I look at this. This does not look like mud to me. This looks like just dirt.
No, it was the strikers in the field. I posted it in the general chat.
Yeah, but that was on the one rainy day which we had recently. I think there was a couple of cloudy days at least on Sentinel, and it might have occurred then.
Yeah, it was the close-up video taken from the ground.
I think it should be the same video. It's just I think it's just closer, don't you think?
But there was so much talk about, oh no, the Rasputitsa has started, the mud has started. But for me, it looks exactly like the same kind of terrain that they were pushing through in early June. The black soil with deep tracks. I don't see any difference.
See, look at this. This doesn't look wet to me. This was a not a great video for Ukraine. They lost several. Actually, they lost a lot, but it doesn't look wet to me. And then there was this other this assault here, which it doesn't look very muddy to me. This is I believe this is a BMD-4, and this BMD in this point in this video, it drove up. It dropped off its infantry. The infantry first kind of dove into this ditch because I think they didn't want to get run over. The BMD turns around and drives away, and then they run into this forest strip and move down the forest. And they never say what happened after that. I also wonder if this video came after these other videos, because I think they did. I think this video of this counterattack is more recent than this video of these BMPs on the Martyr.
Just one note, you need to watch that video again, because you can, if I remember correctly, that's the video where you can actually see that one guy jumped off the BMD and he stands in front of the BMD while it's firing its gun, and I think one guy is he's not hit, but he certainly feels the shell flying by, and falls on the ground.
I do remember seeing that in the video. There was like 3 guys just standing in front of the BMD. They're like, "What do we do?" And the BMD just keeps shooting. Oh man. Well, the BMD is doing its job. It's just the infantry are very smart. But the BMD did everything except shoot smoke. I don't know why they hate smoke. Everybody hates smoke. Anyways, regarding random robot in the news, a tank sunk right here. It was a T-80 BV, a Russian one. I didn't label this apparently, but this was a Ukrainian artillery strike. The first part of this video where Ukraine destroys the column of D-30s or whatever, is that new or is that from like a while ago? Because I remember.
Sorry, I missed that sentence. Can you repeat?
In this video, Ukraine destroys a column of D-30s. I think they're D-30s. I'm just gonna show a still frame. It's this. Do you think this is new, or is this the video from like a long time ago?
It's probably older.
Yeah.
I mean, you can probably check it on Sentinel, don't you think?
Yeah, probably.
But then again, the grass is quite brown.
I think this is older because I remember this triangle. Um, I remember geolocating this triangle. I think this
And
is the same video from a while ago.
and the grass is clearly burning there. So in Sentinel, you can probably see exactly when it happened.
Yeah. But anyways, um, what else is there to say about this area? Ukraine is within a few hundred meters of Novoprokopivka, or Prokopivka, Novoprokopivka. That's how you say it. Anyways, they're within a few hundred meters, roughly around here, and they're apparently assaulting in two different places. I don't know how far they've moved up in on this axis. Um, there is combat down here, but I don't know if it's like infantry combat or if it's just artillery and drones. But there is active fighting here. I just don't know what weapons are being used. Um, so yeah,
There's one more thing to say about the Rabatne area.
okay.
Ever since you had the shout out on your stream, I think 2 weeks ago, about Bobber basically being the mapping service, Bobber has stopped being the mapping service.
Yeah, they.
I think they were told to either not strike targets on the front line anymore and only strike rear area targets, or they're not publishing those videos anymore. So that's really bad for us in terms of, updating the map.
Yes. Now we have to rely on that artillery channel that publishes, but they don't publish very frequently. And they publish videos that are obviously at least a week old. Yeah, I don't think they removed Bobber from the front line. Bobber was probably one of their most effective units. Like, let's be honest.
But if you check the last drone videos in that area, a lot of them are from Bobber, and a lot of them are SUVs north of Robotina.
Yeah.
It's that maybe they are told not to publish their strikes on the front line area, only strikes on the rear area.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening, personally. Or maybe they're just punishing Bobber. Like,
Yeah. Someone is listening to your stream, and or they're following Imi on Twitter, and I think I also called the mapping service on Twitter. That might also be the case.
Yeah. Okay, so there's only kind of one remaining topic that I have to talk about, and we kind of already talked about it. It's Kherson area is just getting absolutely shellacked. They're getting just crushed with these bombs. Like, look at, like, these are all airstrikes. It's crazy. They're also getting hit really hard with artillery shelling, and it seems that this shelling is targeting civilians, because I don't know how else to describe that. This shelling, that this was incendiary shelling. How I don't know how else to describe it. All of this is doing so much damage to civilians. So many people are getting wounded. There, police officers today. I think it was here in Berislav. They attacked police officers with drones. I think something similar happened in Nikopol, although they didn't say police officers, but I think they may have been targeting police officers there too. Just to say that in the Kherson area, there are tons of airstrikes, lots of artillery, and civilians are being wounded regularly. So that's kind of the last thing I had to talk about.
Yeah, it seems like Ukraine, unfortunately, is not able to focus their air defense assets and counter battery there.
I don't even know if Ukraine can do air defense here, because the bombs are such long range. I don't think, like, other than like maybe what's it called? I forgot the word.
Patriots?
Yeah, Patriots. Other than Patriots, I don't think they can even fight them.
Coming in,
How long range are the
the Onyx.
glider?
No, we're talking about these long range bombs. Like,
Oh, okay. Sorry, I zoned out for a minute.
yeah, their range is the range of these bombs is what, like 60, 70 kilometers. So
For a high altitude, high airspeed release, yes. Depending on, it might be less than that in practice, depending on what altitude and again airspeed they're releasing at. JDAM ER has a range on paper of 70 kilometers, but the Ukrainians only get 40 kilometers out of it in practice, again, because they're releasing it at medium airspeed at medium altitude.
yeah. Well, I mean, what weapon do you think Ukraine could realistically use? Because I don't think they really have anything to do. I don't think they can fight off these planes.
Patriot. I mean, they need more Patriot batteries. If they could deploy some along the front line, that would help push out their anti-access area denial bubble, and that should effectively deter them. My understanding is that all those aircraft and helicopters that got shot down over Bryansk, they were about to execute, a UMPK strike, and then the Mi-8s, they were there providing electronic support, and the Ukrainians just kind of bopped a Patriot over to the border, and then killed them all, and that was to ideally deter them from trying to UMPK basically stuff in Chernihiv and Sumy in the future.
So, John, we had one video of a release of one of those fabs over Kalanchak. Maybe Andrew, you can actually show it on the map.
If I remember.
Kalanchak, south of Kherson. You don't need to show the video. No, further west in Kherson still. Yeah, and now left of you. There's Kalanchak
Yeah.
right in the center of your screen, exactly. And pretty much over that town, we have seen them release one of those traps. That's a distance of roughly, I think, 60 kilometers.
Yeah.
So would a Patriot being stationed, let's say, 10 kilometers north of Kherson somewhere, would that
They would
be able
not
to
be.
deny
They
that?
would not be 10 kilometers north of Kherson. So the S-300Ps, they're currently deployed 30 to 40 kilometers to the rear of the flot. With Patriot, given that with PAC-2 it has a 160 kilometer range, you'd want it further to the rear, probably at 60 to 70 kilometers, just so you can have that extra margin of safety for the battery. And then, if you have it deployed, say, let's just say 70 kilometers to the rear, that still gets you 90 kilometers of projection into Russian lines, for at least for high altitude targets.
That's Mykolaiv. To give an idea, the Patriot would be in Mykolaiv and has a range of, what did you say, 170?
160 for PAC-2. Now, keep in mind, this is a very non-standard use of Patriot. Patriot in sort of U.S. NATO doctrine is a rear asset, like it's to defend critical assets in the rear. Using it for forward air defense is not really what it was designed to do. I mean, granted, S-300P wasn't designed to do that either. That's what S-300V is for. But yeah.
Yeah, there was another video of a fighter dropping a bomb like near Kamyanka, and I think the bomb itself hit near Konstantinivka.
Just want to emphasize how important it would be for Ukraine if they could get the longer version missiles and radars for the NASAMS batteries, because they have potentially in a short period or mid to short range period a lot more launchers. John, could you remind me what is the long range on this?
AMRAAM ER
AMRAAMs.
has AMRAAM ER has a claimed range of 50 kilometers. The issue is, I don't think any AMRAAM ERs have been produced. I think one of the Gulf states in the Middle East, I think one of them has AMRAAM ER on order, but the production volume is very, very small, as I understand it currently. So that's going to be an issue.
Yeah,
So what-
it's difficult because they need to prioritize high value targets with the long range air defense capabilities they have.
Yeah.
I don't think they can afford to forward deploy them.
No. And I mean, we don't know the range of the Lancets now. They're claiming that they're like 100 kilometers. I don't really believe it, but I mean, it would be pretty embarrassing to lose a Patriot to a Lancet.
So the good thing about Patriot is that you can disperse individual components of the battery up to 10 kilometers apart. So it'll never be possible for the Russians to get an entire battery in one go. That will never happen if the Ukrainians play their cards right. The worst case scenario is they get the radar or the ECS, the engagement control station. That would put a whole battery out of action. In reality, you would never want to forward deploy a Patriot without like a Gepard or some other SHORAD asset protecting at least the engagement control station and the radar. You would never want to do that otherwise. The issue that Ukraine faces is that they have a severe shortage of SHORAD assets. That's why we see these S300P batteries, not just forward deployed because they have to be forward deployed, but that's why we see them forward deployed without being covered by SHORAD because they just don't have enough SHORAD assets. So they need more Patriot batteries to be able to actually effectively use them for forward air defense. And they also need more SHORAD assets, A, just in general, and B, if they're going to forward deploy the Patriots, they're going to need additional SHORAD assets to defend them.
So we have a question for you. What's the range of the SAMP-T and the IRIS-T?
IRIS-T SLM has a range of 40 kilometers. IRIS-T SLS, I think, is 12 to 20 kilometers, I think. SAMP-T is, I need to check, I don't remember off the top of my head. SAMP-T with it's going to depend on the missile because there's Aster 30, there's Aster 15, there's Aster 30, and there's like Aster 30 NT. Let me see here. About 120 kilometers, somewhere in that range, maybe more, I think.
Okay.
That's going to be like Aster 30 Block 1. And so the main advantage of SAMP-T is that A, it's vertical launched, and B, it's 360 sensor coverage, so it can engage threats coming from any direction. Patriot basically only engage threats along a 120-degree arc of a circle.
I find that funny.
Patriot will get 360-degree sensor coverage very, very soon with lower tier. What the hell is that new radar? There's a new radar that's going to replace the MPQ-65. It's called the lower tier air and missile defense something or another. That's going to have 360-degree coverage. So that will fix the issue. That'll half fix the issue. The other issue is that PAC-3, both CRI and MSE, they're data linked. So they have an inertial navigation system plus a data link, so you can update target position or the predicted intercept point, in flight. The issue is that data link is physically implemented via the radar. So the data link is between the missile and the radar. That's because the radar obviously is an enormously powerful antenna. And so you do that to make it jam resistant, because that means that you need to basically try and jam the entire radar. The issue is, again, that radar only has 160-degree line of sight, or it can only has 120-degree coverage. My apologies. At least the MPQ 53 and 65. So that's, I think, still going to limit the engagement area. I'm not sure if the rear-facing arrays on the new radar can data link with the missile. In any case, we do have a system in development called RIG 360 that will basically take over the data link capability. And so that's being implemented as part of IBCS, our whole distributed air defense architecture. So that will basically mean that launchers can be placed anywhere they want away from a Patriot radar. With RIG 360, you can use, you have that data link regardless of being in proximity to Patriot's organic radar. So you can use remote sensors and all sorts of other very, very fun stuff. But that particular asset's still like 2 or 3 years out from being deployed. Its development is kind of slow going. We had to decouple it from IBCS to deliver IBCS on a reasonable time frame.
Got it. Thank you. So, is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
Well, you should show the peon because I like seeing peons burned out or exploding.
Okay, I have to remember what day it was and where it was.
It was the day you're in, and it was further to the right, to the east there. The explosion symbol, yeah, that's the one.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, because there were some questions with regards to the video. I mean, we had them on Discord, and I think we never got a conclusive answer, right?
Is this a video I can show?
Yeah, you can show it. It's.
Oh yeah, it just explodes. I have no idea how it explodes. It just explodes.
Yeah.
It's like there's no explanation. Like, was it a Gimler? Was it a drone?
I don't think it's a Gimler.
I don't think so either. I have no idea what it is. The video description was like, the peon got peoned or something like that. It's like, was it shot by a peon? I don't know what happened here.
Maybe.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the hit is fairly distant from the peon, right? And the blast wave or whatever, it must have made the ammo burst there.
Yeah, you can see multiple explosions because there's like the initial explosion and whatever that is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's what I misinterpreted for a bonus, but it's not.
Yeah, and I think given that the hit wasn't that accurate, we can assume it's probably not Excalibur or.
And then there's like
something similar.
There's a second explosion here. I don't know what that is. And then I think there's a third explosion.
Yeah, I think it spreads now from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It spread. So that's probably the ammo. They must have hit something where they stored the ammo, and then basically they made a path with shells towards the peon, and the fire just followed that path. But because I classified this at first, I classified it as a Gimler because I figured, if the impact is that distant and the peon is destroyed nevertheless, it would likely be, be a Gimler. But maybe it wasn't.
It doesn't look like a Gimler explosion.
It's 15 kilometers from flood. Yeah.
So it's within range of a lot of weapons. It's within range of like everything. It could be I don't think it's an Excalibur, but it could be an Excalibur.
They would have hit the peon itself with the Excalibur, I'm pretty sure.
And it wasn't an air burst either, which is weird. I have no idea what that hit was.
But then again, I have seen those peon shells. What is it, 203? I've seen those impact, and it's significantly larger than that.
Yeah, they're pretty big. Well, I guess it depends on which shell you're shooting too, because the Ukrainian peon shells, I think, at least on paper, should be a much bigger boom than the Russian ones.
Because they're U.S. Huh?
Yeah, they're shooting the U.S. ones, which are high explosive. And the Russian ones are like SAP. So I think the Russian ones have like half the filler as the American ones. Anyways, yeah. So I do encourage people to click on all the little dots because we do geolocate a lot of things. like every day. It's like some of them are not geolocated, like some of them are just news. Um, but a lot of them are geolocated. So I do encourage people to look at them, and you can read the source. Like this is from Zova, which is the government of Zaporizhia, basically. So yeah.
You know, Andrew, there was one point I was actually going to ask you, but maybe it's we can just have that as an open discussion, or maybe people respond in chat. One thing I noticed that often, obviously, we geolocate videos which are very graphic, and oftenly they are graphic in a sense of Ukrainian losses. I think when we put them on the map, we don't always mention that those videos are explicit. So I was wondering, do you think it should be added such that people who are sensitive to that maybe don't click on that link to watch the video, or what do you think?
I don't know what qualifies as graphic, because whenever something is like really graphic, I make sure it's labeled. But it's a gray area, right? So I like what's graphic for one person might not be graphic for a different person, and I don't know where to draw the line. Like should it, like if it shows anything, should it be marked? Like I don't know.
I think it all comes down to zoom level on drones, and
Yeah.
basically, do they show a shell hitting a group of people, or do they show a shell hitting a group of people with what is after that? I think that's a huge difference. But if you take the Robotnik videos or the Verbove videos from the last days, almost all of them are very graphic in the sense of it's disturbingly showing people laying in trenches. And I don't think we mentioned that explicitly, because if you do that every day, it's kind of you're emotionally distancing yourself from a lot of things you see. So you sometimes forget that not everyone watches those kind of stuff every day or has to watch every day. So
Yeah, I'm right now I'm trying to find one video which I think was like the most graphic video that we've ever had, and I'm almost certain I marked it as graphic. And now I'm curious. I have no clue what day it was, which is an issue.
Oh, I remember. You can actually, I think you can check it out on the spreadsheet. If you search for graphic on the spreadsheet instead, you will know the day.
Yeah. I could actually probably find it faster on this, because on this I have every dot.
But can you search among those dots?
I can't, but I know where it is. I know it's right here. So, or maybe it's not there. But this video was by far like the most graphic we've ever had. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not here.
Was it the assault at Dubovo Vasilivka?
It was the drone video of. There's just a really good. I don't want to describe what happened, but it was like just a really good grenade. Remember? Oh, maybe it was over here. Maybe that's why I can't find it. Give me a second. It was. I swear to God, it was in Dubovo Vasilivka. It was like here. I can't find it.
Yeah,
it was
I remember
the 68th Brigade. They have some sort of witch magic in their grenades. I don't know why they do so much damage. I can't find it. Yeah, I'll just search it in the spreadsheet.
Are those the guys filling like Coke bottles and Pringles boxes and stuff with high explosives together with their grenades?
I don't think they're doing that. But their grenades hit different. I don't. It's weird.
Have you seen lately also those squared just blocks of explosives that were dropped? I haven't seen it in like a year, maybe.
I've seen
like,
I've seen Russians using them, and that was another one of the most graphic videos we've ever had of one of those blowing up.
Andrew, now you reminded me. You said 68th Brigade. That's actually Yerovivka.
Oh, was
And
it?
I remember exactly what video you mentioned. Yeah.
Oh, that's why I couldn't find it.
So that's in the recent days. I think it was 3 days ago or so.
I think it was a little bit longer than that. Let me see. Yeah, it was this video. It was this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was the most graphic video we've ever had. By far. It was on the 25th. Yeah, August 25th. So if you want to see the most graphic video, that's it. That's the one.
Well, I wouldn't call it.
It's pretty bad.
I wouldn't call it the most graphic video. Maybe the most graphic video which is geolocatable, because a lot of the graphic videos are actually zoomed in so much that you see a dude in 3 trees. It's gonna be hard to pinpoint that to anywhere on the map.
This video is also incredibly. This is one of the most graphic videos we've had. Those are Russian. This was the one where they dropped a really big bomb. It was like 10 kilograms or something. It was that's a very very graphic video. So, but yeah, I don't know what to do about the graphicness. I have like a scale on my own that if it crosses a line, I make sure it's marked. But I don't know if I should be more aggressive in marking stuff. Like
In general, it's very difficult, because if you start to market more, then you could actually trap yourself in a situation where when you miss to mark one, then people are going to complain, or it's a very difficult dilemma. So in a way, marking stuff could even put you in more trouble. Some people don't react to it. Some people don't even know that they are reacting to this kind of stuff until a long time afterwards. In general, I would just advise people to be a bit cautious about looking at this stuff, even if they think that they're not being affected by it. Then, I mean, you can have really bad effects even long time afterwards, if you watch too much of this stuff, even if you feel that it's not affecting you.
Yeah.
But everyone is different, and some people absolutely take no effect of it. It's like shell shocked. Like, some people might feel it there and then, but afterwards they're fine. Other people have troubles for decades afterwards.
So apparently
So
the satellite imagery is out for Sevastopol. I haven't seen it, but apparently it's out, and they hit. I think we knew they hit, but they hit.
Oh, that must be high res imagery then, because I checked Sentinel earlier. There was no satellite image there for Sevastopol, so maybe some high res.
Yeah, I assume so. Because in big events
yeah.
like this, they use these events as marketing for their respective companies, like Planet or Maxar or whatever. So they release this for free and usually a Creative Commons license as marketing. So
It's actually in Discord if you want to show it. Freddy Afric posted it on Twitter.
okay, here it is. Okay. Oof. Yeah, they got it.
See, and you changed my geolocation.
I didn't change it.
Oh yes, you did. You did, because I geolocated it to the left wing, and then you must have changed it to the second strike. Because I think
I swear I didn't change it. The only way I changed it would be by accident because I didn't intentionally
Okay.
change it.
At least it's pretty evident that the second hit also exploded from that
Yeah, it's
satellite image.
it is.
So I think we don't need to debate that anymore.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big black hole. Looks like the roof caved in as well.
Yeah, I imagine so. Is multiple very large explosions. I just the true result, because who cares about the building? But the true result is who was there, and what happened to them. Right. So I guess we're gonna find out. All of these people are maybe not all, but these people are high enough rank that they're gonna get probably like public funerals and whatnot. So we'll probably find out exactly what happens through that, I imagine.
I mean, they have to appoint a lot of officers. Excuse me, I'm pretty sure. And through those appointments, you can also guess already, that those people which were occupying those positions before were most likely not, let go. But well, in some sort of way, they were let go, but by Ukraine.
The Twitter account sharing this is Brady Afric. So this is him, Brady Effer. That's his account.
I mean,
Oh,
if you look closely, the explosion was so big that it even cleared out some of the trees in front of the building and on the side of it.
Yeah, it's
a
this-
massive explosion.
that area is defoliated for sure. Or at least part of it is. This part is. That part's not. One tree survived. That tree's a survivor.
yeah, but on
Yeah, but
the
look at
left wing,
parking
on the
lot
left wing.
left. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, look at the trees; they're just gone. They're just.
Oh, but it could also be debris. It could be debris which it just fell on the floor. And
Yeah.
but
But-
do we know where the drone attacked in August? Do we know where exactly that was? I don't think so, right? I think we just saw the drone diving into the building, but and then heard or the Russians reported that it hit the HQ, but I don't think we ever saw footage of any damage.
If I ever knew, I long since forgot. So I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's the stream. We've been here for 2.5 hours. It's been a long one.
Oh.
Anyways, thank you for everyone who listened, and thank you for you guys for coming and joining. It was fun.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, goodbye, everybody.